Listen, you know they are mad at me, and as for both Drake and J. Cole, it's as big as the Super Bowl, but if the Super Bowl was only about suing, well, these two of the once thought big three have never looked like bigger losers and frauds, and with this, they really don't want me to say it today, but just get ready and leave a like and subscribe, because you know we gotta do it. Now when it comes to Drake and J. Cole, well, if you are ready to see how Cole has followed the Karen, and now Kendrick Lamar is the only rapper who is in the big three who has never been in some embarrassing paperwork, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And now really, as the J. Cole stans who are also surrogate Drake fans are all going to be mad at me for not just talking about this situation, but really looking at how this changes our entire perception of J. Cole in the rap game. And then within that, how he is really treating the culture, and I guess more than ever, and now 100% we can say that, well, for the people who were still trying to act like this was not the case, Cole is way more like Drake than he will ever be like Kendrick. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And so right now with J. Cole, it's honestly wild and surreal, because within the same day that Drake ended up getting within a lawsuit where now he is being sued, well, in a completely different way, J. Cole managed to get in a public lawsuit just hours later where, well, two of the big three members are now being sued within a way like we have never seen before. And before we go any further, and for the Drake stans watching, they are going to get mad at me for saying this, so leave a like, by the way, to just make sure to help me out. But I have to say it, and I just have to be clear. After J. Cole has been a fake friend and really, advocate for hip-hop on the highest level when it comes to just everything that has been going down, well, after the way that J. Cole has sneak-dissed Kendrick Lamar, even after the apology, and honestly, he almost played a role where he fueled Drake's obsession that ended up starting the whole Not Like Us lawsuit as a whole, with everything with Port Antonio and the lines Cole was saying there about bots, and who knows what other conversations could have went behind the scenes. Well, overall, what I just want to say is now for J. Cole to be handed paperwork where, after allowing Drake to feel so comfortable in rap that he could file paperwork that put the very legitimacy and integrity of the art form under question, well, for Cole to just be handed papers, again, what I have to say, and this has really just been an ever-telling principle of everything we are seeing, is that overall the choices you make do have consequences, and when you put something out into the world, you better make sure that there is some sort of integrity to it, because when there's not and you are still pushing it, well, we are seeing the things that we are for both Drake and J. Cole. And so now with J. Cole, what's going on and what this lawsuit is about, it's not just a regular lawsuit that we do see a lot of artists get into, which tends to happen with a lot of older songs that are sampled on bigger songs now, where maybe the artist who actually created the song was in a bad contract then, so they're not actually seeing what they feel they should from the record's success in the present. Well, with J. Cole, it is not like any of that. And honestly, it's much worse, because pretty much what J. Cole has done now is disrespect a hip-hop legend and staple, and honestly somebody who, if we look at the relationship that they have had in their careers, well, he has done a ton to help J. Cole out, from narrating the intro on the offseason in the track 95 South, to being on the Might Delete Later project and giving Cole the clearance to use his instrumental, which now who I am talking about is none other than the one and only Cameron, who has ended up suing J. Cole himself, which, just to see this go down and to see Cameron, of all people, will go after Cole like this, well, for Drake and J. Cole, even though you both said it was as big as the Super Bowl, it's clearly only as big as getting sued, which we are seeing from Cole here in a way that I think for a lot of people it is just very shocking, because to actively see J. Cole just disrespect a hip-hop legend and somebody who has not just paved the way for every artist and for the genre as a whole, but for his own albums and music to drop to do this, it's just disappointing and lame. And so we are just going to break down what Cameron is saying J. Cole did here and what he is being sued for, which, listen, we are going to read this article because it's pretty quick, But what it says is, in court docs obtained by TMZ, Cameron claims he wrote lyrics and dropped a verse on the song in exchange for Cole agreeing to collaborate with him on a future project, or at least appear on Cam's popular It Is What It Is podcast. And then it says that Cam alleges that 2 years after the recorded, J. Cole neglected to do either. And then adding to this, it says that Cam says Ready 24 was recorded back in 2022, and from July 2023 to April 2024, Cam says he continued to communicate with Cole, who repeatedly stated he was unavailable for the podcast. Cam also says that the subsequent music collaboration between them never materialized, despite efforts by Cam to put it together. And then so ultimately, after finding out that Cameron hasn't been properly compensated for anything here, it is saying that what he is coming after is co-authorship of the song Ready 24 and wants full accounting of anything earned from it so he can get his share, which is estimated to be around $500,000. And with this, once again, when it comes to words having power, well, if we go to the song Ready 24 and look at Cameron's verse, Cameron did say when it comes to getting that bag, he has taken what he is supposed to get, not all, most of it. And just with that literal warning that Cameron said, give me what you owe, and well, from what we are seeing, Cole has just failed to uphold their agreement on any level. Honestly, this is just pretty weird and it's pretty disappointing, and especially as we know that Cameron has done favors for Cole in the past before this, everything is just a little more weird. And while a lot of Drake and Cole fans who don't understand hip-hop are going to try to scapegoat Cameron and say, why did he do this up front and why did he make this type of agreement and deal, which ultimately now he is complaining about, in hip-hop, and one of the main reasons why so many rappers are all over each other's albums is because in hip-hop specifically, and unlike anything else in the music industry, a lot of artists do something that in terms of industry terms is called a swap. And this is when an artist won't directly charge a collaborator upfront for a guest feature, and instead, they offer a contribution for future work, which usually ends up being a collaboration of their own. And these things really don't require paperwork because most artists are expected to just honor their own word. And this is just what's always made hip-hop such a collaborative and communal art form as a whole, just in terms of always getting moments where we are hearing some of our favorite rappers together. And so understanding that and seeing how Cam just asked Cole to do a record of his own or to come on his It Is What It Is show, well, for Cole to just disappear on him, I mean, there's no other way to put it, and I will be curious to find out if we get any sort of an explanation from Cole, but this is whack, and it's really lame to just let down and really betray the trust of one of your idols and heroes like this, especially when, again, there has clearly been a solid working relationship where Cam literally did narrate the intro to the offseason in 95 South. And with this track, Ready 24, which now while a lot of people are trying to say Cameron's verse was terrible and he shouldn't have been on the track anyway, what I don't think people realize is that Cameron didn't just provide his vocal appearance and guest verse, but well, the song I'm Ready is also his record from the Diplomats era, and the beat is also a direct flip of Cameron's work as well. And so listen, while it's definitely going to be interesting to see what really happens from this and what Cameron ends up doing, I think there's a few things to note here, which even in terms of Cameron going after Cole like this, I mean, while Cam is a legend, he is still extremely relevant now, and he's clearly doing very well with the show he has with Mace. And honestly, off of that, I don't think that Cam is doing this because he actually wants to get what he feels like he is owed per se. But what I really do think this is about for Cam is principles and just standing on your word, which it always seems like that's something he has stood on for the entirety of his career. And well, I guess he has gotten to the point where he is so livid with Cole that he has decided to take things to this measure. And so just to see now J. Cole join Drake as the rappers who are stuck within paperwork because of their own choices seemingly, I mean, when you think about everything and even see for Cole how this lawsuit is a domino effect of might delete later outright when he did, which ultimately, of course, that ended up being a whole response and message to Kendrick Lamar and everything that went down on Like That right before it. Well, just to see all of that shake up and to see Cole's reactionary response to Kendrick that he immediately regretted now end up getting him into a lawsuit with Cameron pretty much, that just adds another layer to J. Cole's loss, which I think we need need to note, and I think we need to just look at that as another sentiment to why Kendrick Lamar really put up the greatest performance in any sort of a competition in hip-hop, and maybe even more than that ever, because ultimately to throw off your opponent so much that they made a reactionary project with a reactionary diss song, and then they regretted dropping that song and pulled it away from streaming platforms. Well, to do all of that and now have the domino effect from the release of this project, which you could honestly say looking back on it, Cole dropped the whole thing, maybe just for the purpose of sending Kendrick a signal and message. And well, now that very signal and message that he sent and failed has ended up getting him within a lawsuit, and not just any lawsuit, but one with none other than Cameron himself. Well, I mean, while Drake has of course lost more than we could ever even compare and put anybody in that same category with, because, well, you know exactly why I'm saying that. We don't even have enough time to start that conversation now. Cole is really showing how even with the person who walked out of this thing way better than the cupcake, he still has managed to just do abysmally. Because honestly, if I'm looking at Cole right now, at least I can speak for myself and say that, listen, while the reputation around Cole is that he is a pretty respectable dude, and I do think in a lot of ways he has pushed that image and made everybody believe that, to just see him behind closed doors do this to somebody like Cameron, and if it got to the point where Cameron had to get paperwork involved, you know that this must have gotten really bad, and Cole just didn't even probably respond or communicate with him at any level. Well, overall, this is just very disappointing to see J. Cole betray hip-hop like this and really just show that, again, despite whatever his fans try to say in terms of how much he really cares for the culture and how he is this big gatekeeper that even Kendrick Lamar is not, well, that is just not the case. And for Kendrick Lamar, after everything that both Drake and Cole tried to put on his name, and listen, we just can't forget everything that Cole did engage in and did continue to push and perpetuate, well, that all together did end up causing the Not Like Us lawsuit and almost put Kendrick Lamar in a place where his career could have been ruined for absolutely no reason had the judges and people involved not understood hip-hop on any fundamental reason. Well, overall, for Cole to just have this happen to him, Kendrick Lamar is sitting somewhere right now, and he has definitely got, at the very least, some sort of a smirk on his face, because to just see the people who tried to put him down will pretty much receive the thing that they let happen to him. Well, once again, I said this about Drake and everything going on with him, but this is poetic justice, however you want to put it. And so for J. Cole and Drake, they really now have once again managed to find something in common with one another and just have another thing together that, well, they can bond and just embarrass themselves on stage together over if they ever decide to pop back outside and actually stand on anything that they have tried to do, perpetuate, and instigate. And for the optics of this entire situation, and even just to remind people who J. Cole really was in this whole thing and what he contributed, I do think it's important, because while Drake has continued to spiral out and there has been a group of people who have been right there behind him for all of us to see, I do think we have almost gave J. Cole a sort of pass, whether we have realized it or not, just for everything that has went down in kind of what has been his absence. And when you see that the fake friend behavior that J. Cole has shown over and over again, and even, just this whole thing of never wanting to have confrontation and be positive even when you shouldn't, well, again, if it was up to him and he wanted everybody to be friends, he would have let Drake do whatever to continue to ruin hip-hop and even go as far with a lawsuit over lyrics, because, again, he just was scared to actually confront somebody if he disagreed with their ideas. Well, overall, while there are things you can appreciate about Cole, and he is definitely a more respectful MC just in terms of the technicality of things because he actually writes his bars than Drake will ever be, still, this is just lame and pathetic. And, depending on how this thing goes and depending on how we find out Cole has moved here and, maybe Cameron will let us know more about this himself now that this thing is public, who knows what's really may be hidden and how this may affect Cole's rap legacy. But one thing that I just want to put out there is I'm kind of noticing this whole thing and just the timeline and events that Cam said about the recording of this song and the release of it, that does just have me questioning a lot. Well, to go back to this idea of J. Cole dropping things when he wasn't really ready, this is just kind of a thought, but what I do think when we see that J. Cole has pretty much went absent to the point that Cameron can't even find him. Of course, we know everything that happened with Might Delete Later and 7 Minute Drill, and we know the weird way that he has been moving in general. What I do think, and this is a little bit of a theory, but I kind of think it's fact, is that ultimately now why J. Cole has pretty much disappeared for the last year or so, aside from a few moments like that Forest Hills Drive anniversary show and the 2 times we've seen him at Dreamville Fest, both with the apology and then the one this year, well, does happen to be pretty much after dropping 7-Minute Drill and being put in the place that he was, where, his whole identity was tested and then really just embarrassed in a way where Cole has not been able to rap the same way ever since. And I'm not talking about in terms of the skill, but just in terms of the bravado, because he can't really own all of the words he is putting out there and that he has put out in the past. Well, honestly, I do think that we probably would have gotten the fall off or some more music from now if it wasn't just for the disaster that he made things and that have continued to only get worse as his friends like Drake have only continued to invalidate themselves and their names on the very basis of things that J. Cole helped build up. And so really with that, and then just putting the pieces together and understanding where everything is right now, what we can say is that while Drake has ended up in the place that he is, all because of really the reaction and then the follow-up and moments from the Kendrick Lamar beef, for J. Cole that has happened in a completely different way, which now instead of just being a crash out for all of us to see and embarrassing yourself over and 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 over again, well, J. Cole has just been silently kind of debating and questioning how to move in his career at all. And honestly, I think if we don't get the fall off by the end of 2025 or maybe in January of 26, well, honestly, J. Cole may be already retired. And when it comes to ghosting Cameron and really just leaving Drake the mess that they both created, well, this is going to be his legacy, which if this is what I think the clear reminder to everybody else is that remember, well, listen, as before the Kendrick Lamar beef, a lot of people in hip hop media and within the culture were saying Cole was the best MC of the big three and that he was going to win the beef over Kendrick because he was really about that. Well, just to see now the guy who rapped against Kendrick Lamar and lost so bad that he literally turned invisible, I think that's a pretty good reason to never try to rap against Kendrick again. And so, yeah, that's all I got. Let me know your thoughts on this J. Cole lawsuit. Let me know your thoughts on everything going on with him and Drake. And what do you think this all just means for him, Kendrick Lamar, and the legacy it's all leaving altogether? Now, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on all of this. And if you made it to this point in the video, what I want to say is thank you. And I hope you have a great day. And if you haven't already, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe because it really does make a big difference. Well, listen, I really hope you enjoy the rest of your day and you just continue to be great. But if you want to stick around with me for a little longer and have some more fun, and well, you want to see how Drake just got sued, and honestly, it's even worse than what J. Cole did. Well, it goes beyond being dishonest in hip hop, and it opens up a much bigger problem that Drake is going to have to face. And honestly, he may end up regretting very soon. But you're not going to want to miss this one, so check out the suggested video.